No more fantastic than most of Sydney and not as good as a lot, quite frankly. No offence to anyone living in French's Forest, I live very close to there myself. But look, no amount of what Mark has to say about, Miss Gillard having her heart in the right place, which is just to the left of the centre of your chest, by the way, no amount of that is going to change the fact that people largely do not like her. Now, they've come to that view over a long period of time. It may have started with the assassination, politically so, of Kevin Rudd. It may have started there. In fact, I always thought that Julia Gillard was a much, much better Deputy Prime Minister than she was ever going to be as a Prime Minister. No matter what she does, it will be viewed cynically by people who have come to terms with the fact that they don't like her. And I don't think there's any getting away from that at this late stage. She's got, what, 6 months, a bit over 6 months, and the election that she's already called is going to take place. She's not going to be able to really turn that around terribly much. We'll probably see, somewhere down the line, maybe Julia will rescue a child from in front of a truck or something. But, apart from anything phenomenal suddenly occurring that is going to make her appear to be compassionate, warm, loving, caring, everyone knows she's articulate. Everyone reasonable would understand that she's intelligent. But she's seen as cold and, quite frankly, incompetent when it comes to running the government.
All right, Ed, what about that factor, that media factor?
We've spent... the whole purpose of having the Prime Minister and ministers out here is so that we can start or be able to have the ability to focus on issues that are important to us in our local area. And we've spent the bulk of the time so far, tonight, talking about process issues. Should the article have been dropped, or should the story have been dropped in the Fin Review? An analysis about whether or not the PM's cold, or having some other jab that way. We're not talking about the issues that actually matter to people here. We're talking about the politics and the things that we should be talking. The things that they should be talking about are the things that, basically are things important to people here. The quality of infrastructure, schooling, jobs. Those healthcare, these are the type of things that people want to be able to have.
All right, cool. All right, now we'll take a break. There's plenty more to talk about here, including we'll get into some of those issues, and I particularly want to talk about, there is a perfect example that I found out about today, and I put a bit of work into working out more about, which is about the talk about a bold idea that is the NBN and the reality of what is it like for people living in this part of the world. More in a sec. We're live across the country, only on Sky News.
It's on. Holden's Ultimate Run-Out Sale event is happening right now. Holden dealers are running out our most popular vehicles, like the iconic Holden Commodore, with deals so good across all models, you simply won't see them again. Now for a very limited time, drive away the Commodore SV6 Z Series from just $35,990. Plus, get extra peace of mind with a 5-year warranty and 5 years roadside assist at no extra cost. Don't miss Holden's Ultimate Run-Out Sale event. Hurry into your Holden dealer before stocks run out.
Welcome to our humble website.
Sorry, I'm multitasking. Just got a second car and I was looking for insurance.
Well, nobody insures multiple cars like Progressive. One quote, one price, one policy. And it could save you hundreds.
Oh, great.
What's the story with these?
They're not mine. No story.
What about these? Rob?
My name's not Rob.
Hey, Rob.
One low price for all your cars. That's Progressive. 100% online car insurance.
Well, what if...
You need new pipes? Big job. You're blocked right up the wazoo.
4 kids under 4? Well, at least I'm up for that promotion.
About that, Larry.
I told you, he's a breeder, not a reader.
Reduce your repayments, pause your repayments, top up your loan, or redraw later on. Want a flexible home loan so you can be ready for just about anything? CommBank can. Visit us in branch or online.
Heavy Duty Exit Mould, the #1 mould destroyer that works in just 3 minutes to leave tiles sparkling clean. This is mould. This is Exit Mould.
It's the natural goodness of oats in Uncle Toby's muesli bars that lets kids be kids.
The BMW BMW Festival of M is on now. Celebrate 40 years of M with the BMW X5 30D M Sport Limited Edition. Now available for a limited time. Get more M in your BMW.
This week, the Prime Minister will replace the Lodge with the Travel Lodge, calling Western Sydney home, spending time with the locals and trying to reconnect with electorates of once solid Labor voters that have walked away from the ALP. Campaigning while the Prime Minister is adamant these are still the months of governing.
Talking to local communities.
But in 5 days, is it possible? Failure to win back the Western Sydney heartland is likely to cost Labor this year's election. Join me for AM Agenda on Sky News.
Thank you very much. We are here at Rudy Hill RSL. We've got some good people that are in and around us. We've also got a wonderful panel as well. If you want to come down and you're in the area, say good day. I think we're in officially the Club Lounge, just off the Andrew Wilkie Memorial Lounge here at Rudy Hill RSL. I'm here with Ed Husic, the Labor member for Chifley. I know you'll get in trouble for laughing at that. Mark Latham, the former Labor Party leader, the current Liberal MP for Penrith with Stewart Ayres, and the broadcaster and free speech advocate I heard you being referred to on the ABC the other day. Free speech advocate. Isn't there we go. Lovely. All right, David.
Alligators wrestled as well.
Thank you, David Oldfield. Now, I want to talk, Ed, onto some substantial issues and about the difference between a bold promise and the reality. The Prime Minister has been touting what is, on paper, a good idea. The idea of, all right, let's pump up the internet, let's make it faster, cheaper and better for people around the country. The thing is, though, when I was having a chat to a few Sparkies about all of this today, there are a couple of major housing projects in this very part of the world where it's a brand new housing project, 5 minutes that way, 5 minutes that way, and they can't get a telephone line. The reason is because Telstra's not laying the copper wires anymore. So you've got the Prime Minister standing here in Rudy Hill saying the NBN is the future, but you've got people living in this very electorate who don't even have a telephone because the blue line hasn't gone past their house.
Well, I'd want to find out more detail about that, because what I can tell you is that down the road, on Eastern Road, is the new Bunya estate that is being currently built, 700 homes, where the NBN is basically rolling out there, and the NBN will be the basis on which you will be able to obviously get your internet, but also under what we're doing, you'll get your phone lines as well. If you go down the road into Dean Park, Telstra's basically fibred that up as well, and that's got broadband too. And in parts of this electorate, like I pushed for, areas like Woodcroft and Doonside to get included in the rollout, where people were still stuck with dial-up. So through a combination of working with Telstra and NBN, we were able to get them to access cable broadband in the short term, increase or improve the ADSL in the area, and then also have NBN roll out so that in the next 12 months they'll be amongst the first suburbs in Sydney to get the NBN.
And my thing is that, and there are other examples, and I know that people will bring those to you shortly, but Stuart, in Penrith, the Prime Minister says, again, one of the reasons to vote for us, one of the reasons we're the future party is the NBN. But there are people who are either a long way from getting it in their existing homes, or if you do take up your government's policies of you get a grant if you build a new home, unless you're in the right part of the suburb, you're not going to get it. You mightn't have a phone line till August of this year.
It doesn't matter where you are in Western Sydney, there's going to be more old homes than new ones.
Correct.
Okay, so the problem with the NBN is it's uncosted. We've got no idea where it's going to finish. We know it's tens of billions of dollars. And the question we should be asking ourselves is how do we do it faster and how do we do it cheaper? And if you, rather than going all the way to the home, if you go to the node, you miss all that extra cost. That the last bit of that can be borne by the person who wants the NBN, and the money that we save we invest in real infrastructure like roads and schools and hospitals, which is what people in Western Sydney want.
But Mark, this is my point about, and this is where people like me can pick it up and kick it about in the media, saying, look, it's a big bold thing, it's one of the 5 things the Prime Minister promises for Western Sydney, but it's such a damn patchwork, and it's something that even the best case scenario of it, it's nowhere near coming near anyone's house in the next 10 years.
Well, you've got a choice between what you describe as the patchwork and what Stuart has said, that it goes up to the node. See, the Liberal policy is to turn the patchwork into the spokes of a wheel. Very incomplete, and people who care about this issue have got to ask, under Labor, you've got the Rolls-Royce system rolling up to your house. Stuart's just said the Rolls-Royce stops at the node, which is well away from your house under Liberal Party policy. So if you cared about this, and I do, for the basic reason, having young children, I can see how IT connections are the way of the future. My kids are crazy about all this stuff, from movie making to the modern communications methods. Even I get in, an old Luddite like me gets in on it. So we want the Rolls-Royce system to come to our front door, not to stop at the node up at Camden or out at Campbelltown, wherever the node might be. So I know it costs a few bob, but from what I can work out as a Luddite, I'd rather have the system to my door.
Everything costs
do you know how much the internet, in terms of just one stat?
We keep hearing,
oh, sorry.
We keep hearing about the NBN. Do you really seriously think there are a lot of people in Western Sydney, particularly those who are having trouble, not just in Western Sydney, across the whole nation, who are having trouble paying their gas bills, their water bills, their electricity bills, people who are working their guts out with both parents working, some of them working more than one job each, so they can put their kids in a decent school? How worried about the NBN do you think they really are? How concerned do you think they are? How concerned do you think they are about speed? Mark's talking about his kids, how they're looking forward to... Yeah, I mean, my kids love watching Mickey Mouse and Wiggles and downloading on YouTube. They don't need to do it any faster. I'm not saying that we don't need to have IT improvements. I know we don't have to have IT. Oh, my kids are under 3 years old, Mark. My kids are under 3 years old. No, I said my kids are watching Mickey Mouse. They are. Because he's the leader of the gang and you're not. Now, let me tell you quite simply, realistically, people are under cost of living pressures. We're talking about the Labor Party being the party of the future because of the NBN. They're skipping over the present. People are worried about what's taking place with their present lives, what it's costing them, the BS about how the continent's going to dry up. Yeah, seen that in the last couple of weeks. My water tank's so full it's overflowing. I'd like a bit of dryness. Bring back the global warming, I say. People are worried about cost of living pressures. They're worried about what they can't pay. Yeah. I don't know that people that are really suffering are terribly concerned about the speed of their internet connection if they have one.
Now, Ed, I cut you off before. What do you want to say about
Well, I was going to say a number of things. You know, there will be a lot of people that will have not just a mobile phone, they'll have an iPad, they'll be using all sorts of equipment themselves, and they will also, through their schools and their businesses, want to have modern connections. And the people that have been screaming to me because they were stuck with dial-up, right? And the other thing is too, most businesses, hang on a second, wait up a second, most businesses, you look in here, you'll have blue Ethernet cables all over the place. Businesses themselves rely on modern communications, and the actual use of the internet itself, they reckon, chalks up about $50 billion of economic value to the country. So no one is seriously saying, you know, both sides of politics are committed to improving broadband infrastructure, not going backwards.
Yeah. All right, can you know what you think at any time? The hashtag PMLive, email pmlive@skynews.com.au. Now, cost of living pressures. Both sides of politics and at all levels seem to run this as the issue that somehow they're going to be able to fix. Now, the truth of things is that I don't know exactly how involved a government is in deciding how much your local bread and milk costs. Last time I checked, it inevitably goes up under regardless of what type of government it is. But it is very fair to say that there are an awful lot of people, not just in this part of the world, but no doubt watching us right now, who feel that things are tougher than they were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now, that's something that, Stuart, was a big reason why you became an MP when you, in the by-election in the lead-up to that major election a couple of years ago, and then your government was put into power. Now, you're 2 years in, and the very same issue is now being run by the federal Liberals to say things are so terrible we need to turf the government. At what point in time does government either need to, in the state scenario, accept your part for it being too much, or admit government isn't actually involved in the cost of everything all the time?
Oh, I don't think government's involved in the cost of everything all the time, but the federal government sets the environment for which we do business in. You know, it sets the environment around how things are going to be priced. If you look at something like electricity, we're stuck in this, you know, archaic, crappy national market which determines prices which no one really understands. They're seeing gas prices go through the roof, electricity prices go through the roof, and then just to put icing on top of the cake, they whack the carbon tax on top of it, and you get it on your bill so you know how much you're paying. You know, surely at some stage what we've got to do is recognise that governments have to get out of the way of being involved in increasing prices and let people determine a little bit more for their own life.
This is the thing. Apart from here's a fistful of dollars, what does government do to change the cost of living? Either to push it up or put it down? Because I've got to say, like, you were frustrated with me saying sleep over 1 million times in the past 7 days, Mark. Well, I've had enough of cost of living. I've had enough of a Prime Minister saying, I'm going to do something about pressures on modern families. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. Is she going to come and help do the washing?
Well,
what's the point?
To have a low inflation environment where prices aren't going up like they used to in years gone by, where you used to be worried about how much inflation would go up and whether or not unemployment at the same time would mean you couldn't even pay for the things that you wanted to get. And governments do have some impact on this thing too. I mean, as much as the state Liberals talk about cost of living pressures, I mean, water bills have gone up and green slip's gone up, and we've never heard them actually explain why that would be the case, where families are now paying $50 extra on green slip. So you want to have an economy that you've got unemployment low, where you've got inflation down, where, as Mark mentioned earlier, interest rates are down, and we're on a $300,000 mortgage, you're paying $5,000 a year less as a result of interest rates being lower.
But Mark, in the normal world, I think, with the greatest respect, gentlemen, the thing that sort of shits people is the idea of the state government's responsible for this increase, the federal government's responsible for that increase. There is a fundamental frustration that comes with the ping-pong of who's responsible and who costs. As a person who's been out of the system, is there a free piece of advice that you can give to our two colleagues and their respective parties about cost of living as an issue?
The parties and the media, because we've all got a responsibility in educating people as to reality. Now, what you've been dancing around is one of the great myths of modern Australian politics, that governments have got a button they can push that changes the price of electricity, water, all these other utilities. No, but this is what you've been dancing around. Now, and Stuart said they need to get out of it. Well, the big news is they did. You see, there was a bloke called Nick Greiner, another bloke called Jeff Kennett, who led the pathway to corporatising all these utilities, in many cases privatising them. And then there's an independent of government pricing tribunal that makes all the decisions. So the trick is this. The pollster says someone mentioned cost of living. The politicians talk about cost of living like they can do something about it. The truth is, you've got all these arm's-length, corporatised, independent authorities doing the pricing. The role for national government is to get the national macro economy right. Keep the interest rates down, keep unemployment down, allow businesses to flourish. And cost of living, quite frankly, is the great mirage of modern politics. It might sell the odd newspaper, it might shift the odd vote in a marginal seat, but it is just BS to suggest that politicians can change the detail of it. They can only influence the macro.
I agree. But when the Prime Minister served that up to be one of the 5 things that she was going to help with Western Sydney, elevating it to the same as education, the same as NBN, the same as an NDIS, again, we're going to go through this whole cycle, and Abbott and Gillard are both going to do it. Vote for me because life will be cheaper. Short of giving you money, how can they guarantee that?
Well, they can't guarantee it, and they're both guilty of one particular thing, and that is that the best thing, that is Liberal and Labor, be it Abbott, be it Gillard, they're all guilty of this. The best thing that governments can do to improve life for people is get out of their lives, quite frankly. We need smaller government, smaller bureaucracy, more taxpayers who are in the private sector, because those in the public sector, of course, are in part a drain on the taxes themselves. So, I mean, realistically, Liberal and Labor are both responsible in many senses for us just all simply paying too much in the form of tax. If they really want to help people, and they really want to help with cost of living, they should be cutting what it is they're spending themselves, stop creating all the bureaucracy, and lower people's overall taxes. I mean, all this middle class, as they call it, welfare, for example, and the welfare overall, when they're essentially giving back people what they've paid themselves. Don't take it in the first place. Let people look after their own lives. Get out of people's lives, run things refined, reduce their taxes and give them incentive. That's what people actually need.
Ed, I've got to go to a break, so if you can do a bumper sticker reply, then that would be very helpful.
I'm a politician, that's not possible.
All right, good. I'll take a break. We're live across the country only on Sky News from Rudy Hill RSL.